the Magical Mystery School, and thank you so much for coming back for June 13th. This is my dad's birthday, actually. And we are going to be talking today mostly about Mars square Uranus, so that's fixed fire to fixed Earth. And then Mars is also going straight into Virgo here. And then we're also going to be focusing mostly on Jupiter that just went into Cancer on June 9th. So Jupiter is definitely on this zero Aries or world axis. This is the world axis, beginning of any cardinal sign here. So of course, as soon as Jupiter goes into Cancer, it's immediately going to square Saturn and then square Neptune. So we'll go into that in a lot more detail too. And if we get time on June 20th, so that'll be next week. So if we don't get enough time, I'll just do it next week too. The Sun moves into Cancer, and that's the beginning of our our Cancer solstice. So it's going to be the longest day of the year for those of us on the northern hemisphere, and the shortest day of the year are those in the southern hemisphere. So again, another jolt or trigger to this world axis point. Okay, so first off, let's review a little. Let's see, June 4th and 5th, I had you circle those as being big days. And yes, of course, we had Venus up here in Aries, sextile Jupiter. And I don't know if you know about this, but we had what a lot of people are calling a boy breakup in the White House. So the words, the breakup started on the 4th, and then Mercury sextiled Mars on the 5th, okay, from Gemini. So it went from Gemini to Leo, and that's when, I was saying the words are going to get louder and going to get more combative. And sure enough, that's what we had with our boy breakup. And those words did get louder and louder and louder. So it's still going on as far as I know, but I don't know. Oh, and also the fact that these were sextiles that were going on here, I think really contributed to the silliness of it all. I mean, I think it was really funny, like all the newspaper people or TV people and stuff like that, they were talking kind of in a funny, jocular way about this. So I think that was part of that sextile energy. Okay, then June 9th, and again, if you've got any, that was another big day. Mercury was zooming through here, conjuncting Jupiter, squaring Saturn, squaring Neptune. Venus came in and squared Pluto from Taurus, fixed air, fixed Earth. And that's probably one of the biggest biggies of the 9th there. Because we did have some protests that got a little unruly. But our fearless leader decided that he needed to step in and send in the Federal Reserve. And from what I understand, it was only just a very small few blocks of LA. And anyway, to call in the Federal Reserve, same thing with FEMA, the governor has to request it to the president, and then the president usually then approves or disapproves whether they should send in the National Guard. So who did a little backwards as usual. So Newsom, the governor of California, has immediately sued him. So I don't know what's the status of that right now, but that seems like that was kind of that big dust up. Okay, so now let's get back to our stuff here. Now we've got Mars here. Now it went back and forth. Remember, it was retrograde. It finally went direct, I think, at the end of February, and went back into Leo, where it was a little bit bombastic and brash and dramatic, you can imagine. Fixed fire, a little stubborn in their opinions on things. Very proud, a lot of, royalty kind of stuff going on, but very creative. Very strong-willed, and can inspire confidence in and a very enthusiastic lover if you've got this in your own chart or somebody you know. Anyway, so Mars here in Leo though did square on, or is going to square Uranus on June 15th. And it is basically at 29 degrees. Okay, I think it's actually like 2850 something, but it's basically in that critical degree. And just to let you know, that is going to be at 2:47 a.m. Pacific time. So Leo is, so Mars is still in Leo, so it's still got that kind of wild eccentricity and craziness, especially squaring Uranus. Now, these two together in a square are really considered one of the most dynamic of all the aspects out there. I mean, we've got impulsiveness, we've got recklessness, we've got quick arguments, that sort of thing. Here, let's just look at the tarot keys for those two. Mars is the tower, and you know, a lot of times, oh, yay, focus. A lot of times that arrow up there at the top actually looks like this Mars symbol. So here we're just, you know, people are just getting the tower represents what we believe in our 3D world, and then the crown is, you know, all these thoughts that we have that make that tower true is just getting knocked off. So that's kind of interesting. And then Uranus, of course, is the Fool. So here we've got, yeah, focus. There we've got a character that's just getting ready to walk off the cliff, right? He's got his little flower, like a little parachute in his hand. And that's as good as we're going to do for focus. But anyway, so that's Uranus. So you can see how both of these really, they're pretty reckless energies in general. Okay, the Fool, all right. Yes, so, and the other thing I want to mention about this too is that this is a square, so it's 90 degrees, but right at the midpoint of that, so 45 degrees from Uranus and 45 degrees from Mars, is Mercury in Cancer. So Mercury is making it's called a sesqui-square. Sometimes it's called a semi-square. I've also heard it called a sesqui-quadrant. So anyway, half a square, 45 degrees, that it's going to be making to both of these. So not only are we going to get just this exciting kind of crazy energy, it's also going to be impacting how we speak and the news and stuff like that. So again, June 29th is another one I really want you to circle on your calendar too. Now, the other things that might happen with this much energy going on, we could simply have some electrical outages, okay, that overload the system. Or remember, I've always talked about with Taurus and Uranus, or Uranus and Taurus, that could be, you know, some fireworks and that sort of thing. So just be aware, you know, like I said, circle that day on your calendar too to watch out and see what happens. And like I said, if you notice something or something happens to you personally or locally, let us know. Okay, then on June 17th, Mars goes into Virgo. Now, this is quite a bit different energy from Leo. Virgo energy is much more, you know, attention to detail. It's kind of a clean freak. It's the sign of health too. So in relationships, it can be kind of fussy and kind of picky. It's also known for being kind of critical. So here, let's just show the tarot card for that's the Virgo. Okay, there's my. Okay. I'm going to wait for it to focus, but we'll see. Okay, so as you can see, you know, and you'll hear me do this. I almost called this Virgo. When I'm talking, I will sometimes call the Hermit Virgo and sometimes call Virgo Hermit. So just bear with me. So here he is. He's looking. He's standing up there. He's up at the summit. He's totally enlightened, and he's ready to shine the light down. And maybe he's kind of looking down on people, going, "Geez, Louise, guys, can't you get it together and get up this hill? Well, a lot different feeling than this Leo card, the Strength card. And here you can see one of the big messages here is that to calm the inner beast is the best way to use that Leo energy. Okay, we'll put him right about there. How about that? Okay. So Mars will be going into Virgo, and you know, like I said, for relationships, they can be a little bit more fussy and the clean freak. I mean, one nice thing though, Virgo may be very discerning about who they do get involved with, but once you become their person or, you know, their friend or whatever like that, they will do anything for you. Okay, because Virgo is also the sign of the servant. So they will, you know, if you need somebody to go out at 10 o'clock at night and get some Advil or something like that, they will do it for you, and happily too. And also that cleanliness too, you know, they're the kind of people that they always brush their teeth before they go to bed, and they will expect you to brush your teeth before you go to bed. Okay. And let's see, and they're very much, you know, they're planners. They like to execute strategies. I mean, you know, in Leo, you might say, hey, let's go on a vacation. And that's as far as you get. Virgo's like, okay, when? Are we flying? Are we driving? Can we take the train? You know, it's like, are there hotels there? How much is this going to cost? You know, so Virgo's the one that worries about all those details and such. Oh, and one more thing I do want to mention, Mars and Virgo. Mars does rule knives and metal instruments and things like that. If you know anybody with a Mars and Virgo, encourage them to become a surgeon. This is a sign of a great surgeon. I mean, somebody who can pick up that knife and cut your body open. That's a different kind of person for me anyway. Okay. And they are kind of perfectionists. And sometimes that can also be that they end up being kind of like slobs, because a person that's a real perfectionist, if they don't have the perfect place to put something, they'll put it in the corner over there until they find the perfect place. And those corners get stacked up further and further and further. Okay, so now let's talk about Jupiter down here. Now we did talk about how on June 9th, Jupiter went into Cancer. And sorry, there goes my bells, but Jupiter just loves it in Cancer. It's exalted in Cancer. This is cardinal water. The moon actually rules Cancer. Remember, the ruler feels the most at home there. The exaltation is where they have the most power. So this is big mama energy, okay? Big family. So this whole year, you're going to be feeling more like getting together with the family. You know, you might even want to get a bigger home, okay? Because this is really focused on the home and all that good stuff. And it's also very good cooks, and they love good food. Oh, and I should say that home stuff, that's also, if you have this natally in your chart, this is a good real estate agent. Okay, so you might be looking for real estate. Now, the negatives of Jupiter and Cancer, it might be smotherly love instead of motherly love. And they can be a little self-indulgent. And, you know, that's why I say Taurus and Cancer, they like each other a lot. They can sit on the sofa and eat bonbons all day long together. No, I'm kidding, kind of, a little bit. Anyway, oh, in both of these signs, Cancer is very sensitive, so can get their feelings hurt, but so can Leo. So I'm not sure which one of these is more prone that way, but just, again, if you know someone, you know, you can be, or if you are this person, you can be a little sensitive around the edges there. So watch out for that for sure. Okay, let's see. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is this is a very reliable transit. It's 12 years around the wheel, and it will spend pretty much just a good old year in each sign. So really look at where this, where you see this glyph. This is the Cancer glyph, because that's going to be where this Jupiter energy, what area of your life is going to be focused on. So let's just say you've got Cancer on the cusp of the 7th house, the house that's ruled by Libra. So this is the house that's focusing on, marriage partners and relationships and really, but making them legal. So if you have Cancer on this 7th house cusp, you might be getting married this year. Okay? So, or, with astrology, we always have to look at the opposites too. Maybe that's your year to get divorced. I don't know. Oh, and the other thing too then is think back 12 years from where we are right now. So what would that be? 2013? Is that right? Think about what's going on in your life, because that may be repeating at this time. Okay. Now, Jupiter will be squaring Saturn and Neptune on June 15th. Now, I think we've said that day before, so I want you to circle that June 15th, because that's going to be a pretty crazy day, because we're getting that Mars squares Uranus, but we're also getting Jupiter square Saturn. Now, this is, again, with these two planets right next to each other, and then it's going to square Neptune on June 18th. For a while now, we're going to have this pattern of constriction, expansion, okay? And with Jupiter here, it's going to make it more constricted, more expansive, okay? So we're here, this is worry and work, imagination and relaxation. So at least when we have this aspect, it might come down on us pretty hard, but then it kind of mellows out, okay? So that's kind of cool. Okay, so this Jupiter-Saturn square started August 19th of 2024. We got 3 hits of this, and then we had another Jupiter-Saturn square December 24th. So think back. So this is think back of what you were doing during those times. And now this one on June 15th of the Jupiter square Saturn, this is going to be the only one, though, that's in Cancer and Aries. The other 2 were in Gemini and Pisces. So, usually when I see a transit hitting 3 times, I always think the first one's the hardest, and then they get easier. But with this one ending up in Aries and Cancer compared to Gemini, Gemini and Pisces kind of like, oh, yeah, what do you want to do? I don't know. They're kind of a little bit lighter. This could get pretty intense, okay, because this is forward thinking for sure. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about this is that this is also part of an even larger cycle, okay? Because back in December of 2020, 5 years ago, Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted? I don't think that's a word, but came into conjunction, and early degrees Aquarius, or in Aquarius, these 2. So that's the seed time, the seed thoughts, the seed manifestations for what we're going through right now, okay? So it's kind of like a new moon, that when Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted in 2020, now this is going to be like the first quarter moon, then they'll eventually come in opposition, that'll be like the full moon, and then they'll have a final square, or we can call it a closing square or a waning square. Just like this first one could be a waxing square or an opening square. Okay, so that's just part of that bigger cycle. And and this cycle again is very much like clockwork, pretty much every 20 years. So Saturn and Jupiter are going to conjunct again in 2040. They did it in 2020, then in 2040. Then 5 years for the first square, 10 years. So 2020, 2030 will be the first opposition, or the only opposition. And then 2035 will be the closing square. And then 2040 will be the next conjunction. So really think about this is a whole 20-year cycle that we're going through. And then now I've got to put another cycle on top of that one. When Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted here in Aquarius, that was the first time in 400 years. Oh my goodness. I'm messing up my world axis here. It's the first time in 400 years Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted up here in Aquarius in an air sign. For the 400 years before that, it had been this conjunction had been happening in earth signs in Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo. Now we're going to see this air symbology become more kind of like our part of our social construct, basically. So and this is, you know, when we talk about that things are speeding up, that's where we're talking about. This is another one of those clues. Now this Saturn Jupiter conjunction for the next 400 years is going to be happening in air signs, much faster, much more mental than stodgy old earth signs, right? So again, this is kind of those you know, age things, like when we talk about the dark ages were this, and so we're getting ready to birth into a whole new situation here. I think that's pretty exciting. Okay, so just remember, with this first square, we're being challenged and we're being asked to make adjustments for that conjunction back in 2020. So if you can think about it, that's why, you know, if you can just get one of those daily calendar things or what weekly, you know, even if you can just write a word or two about what's going on for you or what's happening, a sentence or two, it's really fun to be able to look back on those. Okay, so now this happens on June 15th, and you know, the Jupiter Saturn square leading into the Neptune square that's going to happen on the 18th. So it's kind of like one big aspect or transit going on for sure. So we're going to need to feel emotionally secure, right? So that we can go forward, Aries, with cautious, okay, optimism. And I can't remember if I said this before, but Cancer, the modern ruler of, I mean, you know, with Jupiter going here into Cancer, the modern ruler of Pisces is Neptune, and the ancient ruler is Jupiter. So again, we're getting kind of that Pisces feeling, you know, kind of double reinforcement there. So just remember, we are going to be, even with this woo-woo going on here, with Saturn here, I think it's a great benefit. It gives us accountability, it gives us earthiness, stability, strength, and again, that's that contraction and expansion, but get ready, you know, that's just going to be part of life here the next year or so. Let's see. Oh, and there's also, with this Aries influence, this is going to create a very much of a, I can do it myself. I'm totally, you know, I don't need any help. I'm good, all right? So, good, yeah, it's good to be self-sufficient, but just, you know, don't let yourself get yourself in trouble, that's all. Okay, so, oh, and the other thing too, with this Jupiter squaring Saturn and Neptune like this could almost give us too much confidence. So just be a little wary of that too, that, you know, if you do dream up something that you want to go forward with, give it a few days to sleep on it and think about it a little bit. Okay, so again, with Jupiter square, and then Jupiter's going to be squaring Neptune, and again, that's our double Pisces feeling here too. Our beliefs may change. They may even get bigger and more expansive with Jupiter squaring that. Could be a little bit of self-indulgence. Now remember, this is a square, so, you know, don't let yourself get too far out there, right? But again, with Saturn and with this being cardinal now, we're going to get help from that. It won't be so wishy-washy, in other words. But keep checking in. What's real? What makes sense? What's the reality here? You know, you don't want to get off down some rabbit hole somewhere. And I'm really curious to see how it goes for you too. So circle those days, June 15th and 18th, and let us know. So the big ruckus is going to be on June 15th because we got this Mars square Uranus and Jupiter square Saturn. And then it's going to kind of probably dissolve a little as Jupiter squares Neptune. Oh, and the other thing too with Jupiter squaring Neptune, there could be some sort of water event, a flood or something like that. So keep your eyes out, ears peeled for that one too. And then last but not least, let's see how, yeah, I think I've been going long enough here. But just to give you a little pointer, we'll talk about this next week because when I publish on June 20th, that will be the solstice day, and it's happening at 3:32 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So it's crack of dawn for us western side of the world here. But just remember, as Cancer goes in, or as the sun goes into Cancer, it's going to square Saturn, it's going to square Neptune. All that stuff's going to fall right into place again. So anyway, we'll talk about all that, a whole bunch more next time. And and Mercury is moving so fast. Mercury zooms is going to be into Leo next week too. So that's another one to keep on your calendar. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a great week. And I hope to see you next time. And just remember, from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere. Dr. Zeus. Bye.